Good morning everyone. So today we will be discussing about that is based on the type of construction. In the previous slide we have already discussed about the building. What do you mean by building? What are the classifications of the building? What are the two categories that have the building have been divided? Okay, so we can say that building are the man-made structures with roofs and walls, doors, windows, ventilators, staircase, lifts. Okay, so this comes under the building, definitions of the building. So we have already discussed about the classifications of the building. The buildings have been classified into two types or two categories. First is based on the occupancy, second one is based on the type of construction. So we have already discussed about the based on the occupancy. According to the National Building Code, these buildings have been classified into 9 groups. As we can know that Group A is known as residential buildings, Group B is known as educational buildings, Group C institutional buildings, Group D assembly buildings, Group E business buildings, Group F mercantile buildings, Group G industrial buildings, Group H storage buildings, and last one that is Group I hazardous buildings. Okay, so 9 buildings or the 9 groups I have already been discussed with you all. So we will be now reading about that is based on the type of construction. So in the based on the type of construction, it mainly depends upon the 3 types, that is fire resistant buildings, heavy timber buildings, and last one that is wood framed buildings. So we can construct it in our own way. Okay. So next we will be reading about that is components of the building. So as I have already discussed, in the components of the building we have foundations, plinth, windows, doors, staircase, floors, roofs. I have already told you. So before that, the building have divided into 2 parts. So first is substructure, second one is superstructure. As you can see here the diagram, this is the substructure and this one is superstructure. Okay, what do you mean by substructure? The portion of the building which is below the ground level is known as substructure. You can see here it is below the ground level is known as substructure. And the portion of the building which is above the ground level is known as superstructure. You can see here it is above the ground level, that is ground floor, second floor, roof. This is above the ground level is known as superstructure. Okay. So here are the components of the building: foundations, plinth, walls and columns, sills, lintels and chazas. Chazas we can also say it as weathered sets. Doors, windows, ventilators, floors, basements, upper floors, roofs, steps, staircases, lift, building finishes, building services. Okay. So here are the components of the building. I have already shown here the images, you can see here. Okay. So we'll be reading one by one. So here I have already been shown you the diagram of the components of the building. Here you can see this is the substructure, this one is the superstructure of a building. Okay. You can see here. Okay. So here you can see here it is the foundation, substructure of foundation. This is the foundation depth. Below the ground level it is known as substructure, it is known as foundation, and this one is the width of the foundation. And here it is known as steps. Below the ground level I have told this is known as substructure, or above it that is known as superstructure. You can see here this is one is a plinth level. Okay, and this one is a floor, this one is a door frame structure. This in between this to this is known as ground floor, and this is known as weathered set. Also we can tell it as chaza. This is wall and sill. This is sill is mainly located at the bottom of the window, as we will be reading in the slides. Okay, this is known as slab. This is window frame. This is the first floor. Okay, this is the ground floor. Okay, this is the first floor. And same, this is the weathered set, cornice interior, parapet wall, coping, flooring, this is the slab. Okay, all of these are the components of the building. So we'll be reading one by one. First, we'll be reading about that is foundations. As I have already told, foundations comes below the ground level. It is also known as substructures of a building. So foundation is the most important part of a building, and the building activity starts with the digging the ground for foundation and then building it. It is the lowermost part of the building. A foundation is necessary to evenly distribute the entire building load on the soil in such a manner that no damaging settlement takes place, and hence the foundations needs to be constructed on the good or the solid ground. Okay, so as we all know, foundation is the lowermost part of the building, and it is necessarily to distribute the entire building load on the soil because it should not cause any damage to the building, and the foundations need to be constructed in the solid or good ground soil, and this activity mainly started with the digging of the ground for foundations, and then we have to build the structure. Okay, so it is known as foundations. So next, that is plinth. It is a part of the structure which is located between the ground level and the floor level. Is known as plinth. I have already shown you here. You can already see here. This is the plinth I have shown you. It is located between the ground level and the floor level. This is known as plinth. Okay. So this is the part of the superstructure located between the ground level and the floor level is known as plinth. And plinth height, it should be 45, 60, 75, 90, 120 centimeter. Okay, so we can also say that the height of the plinth should not be less than 45 centimeter. It should be above the 45 centimeter. That is the plinth height, and it prevents the surface water from entering the building. Okay, from entering the building, it also prevents the surfaces of the water. And next is that is walls and columns. You have already seen in your houses the walls and the columns while we are constructing a structure or a building. Okay, the functions of the walls and column is to transfer the load of the structure which is vertically downward or to transfer it to a foundation. Walls encloses the building area into different compartments and provides privacy. Walls protects against the heat, cold, rain, noise, dust winds, etc. Columns are the vertical members along which the beam and the slab or the roof is supported, and the shape of the columns can be of square, rectangular and circular. Okay, so we can say that the function of the walls and column is to mainly transfer the load to the structure which is vertically downward, and that load will be transferred to the foundations. And all of us know walls mainly protects against the heat, cold, rain, dust, winds or any types of atmospheric agents, and columns, all of us have seen columns are the vertical members where the beams and the slabs or the roof has been supported, and the shape of the columns is to be of rectangular, circular, square. All of us have been seen. Okay. So next is that is sills, lintels, charjas, water sets. Okay. So window sills means these have been provided between the bottom of the window frame and above the top of the wall below. You can see here, this is the sill, window sill. It has been provided at the bottom of the window frame and above the top of the wall below. And what do you mean by lintel? Lintel are the accessory structure or the masonry structure, you can also tell it as, and it is provided over the door and window openings, lintels. Okay, for transferring the load transversely to avoid the stress on the door and window frames. And what do you mean by charja? Charja is a protection provided outside the wall to protect the doors and windows from the rain and sunlight. And also it is made up of RCC. Okay, so as I have already told, window sills are mainly provided at the bottom of the window frame. You can also see in your houses the window sills have been provided. And next one is that is lintel, which have been provided in the both doors and the window openings. And last one, that is chazza. It is a projection and it is provided outside the wall to protect the doors and windows from any atmospheric agents, and it is made up of RCC. So next, that is doors, windows and ventilators, will be reading in the next slide. Thank you.